If one who was not turned to Sri Bhagavan in his heart asked whether he gave upadesa, he might make some enigmatic reply, or none at all, and in either case a negative answer would be presumed. In fact, his spiritual instruction, like his initiation, was through silence. The mind was silently turned in the direction in which it should strive. A devotee was expected to understand this. Very few needed verbal assurance. The story of V. Venkataraman, who has already been referred to, is illustrative. In his youth, he was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, but he felt the need for a living guru in flesh and blood, so he prayed to him with the fervor of intense longing. Master, grant me a living guru, no less perfect than yourself. Very soon afterwards, he heard of Sri Ramana, but then, a few years in the ashram at the foot of the hill, he went there with an offering of flowers. It so happened, as would always happen when desirable, that there was no one else in the hall when he arrived. Sri Bhagavan was reclining on the couch, behind him on the wall the portrait of Sri Ramakrishna, to which Venkataraman had prayed. Sri Bhagavan broke the garland in half. One half he bade the attendant place upon his portrait, and the other on the temple lingam. Venkataraman had a feeling of lightness and ease. He was at home, his purpose achieved. He told the story of his coming. Sri Bhagavan asked him, "You know about Dakshinamurti?" "I know that he gave silent upadesa." "That is the upadesa you will get here." This silent upadesa was in fact very varied. Sri Bhagavan spoke and wrote most about vichara, or self-inquiry, and therefore the opinion arose that he prescribed only jnana marga, the path of self-knowledge, which most people find too sheer in this age. But in fact, he was universal and provided guidance for every temperament, by the path of devotion no less than of knowledge. Love and devotion to him are a bridge across the abyss to salvation. He had many devotees for whom he prescribed no other path. The same Venkataraman grew uneasy after some time at being given no sadhana, that is, no practices to perform, and complained. "And what brought you here?" Sri Bhagavan asked. "Thinking of you, Swami." "Then that is also your sadhana. That is sufficient." And indeed, the thought or remembrance of Bhagavan began to accompany him everywhere, to become inseparable from him. The path of devotion is the same really as that of submission or knowledge. The whole burden is cast upon the Guru. This is also Sri Bhagavan enjoined. And to one devotee he said, "Submit to me, and I will strike down the mind." And to another he said, "Only keep quiet. Bhagavan will do the rest." He told Devaraja Mudaliar, "Your business is only to surrender and leave everything to me." There are two ways. Either ask yourself, "Who am I?" or surrender to the Guru. And yet to surrender, to keep the mind still and be fully receptive to the grace of the Guru is not easy. It requires constant effort, constant remembrance, and only the grace of the Guru makes it possible. Many use devotional or other practices to help them in the attempt, and Sri Bhagavan approved and authorized such means, though he seldom actually prescribed them. Most potent, though invisible, was the power of satsang. Literally, this means association with being, or truth. But as a means of sadhana, it is used to be meaning association with one who has realized sat, or being. Sri Bhagavan spoke of it in the highest terms. The first 5 of the supplementary 40 verses are devoted to its praise. The story of their inclusion is characteristic. The adopted daughter of Echamal found one of them written in Sanskrit on the paper in which a packet of sweets was wrapped, and was so moved by it that she learned it and recited it before Sri Bhagavan, and he, seeing its importance, translated it into Tamil. He was at the time compiling the 40 supplementary verses, writing some and translating others, and this verse with the 4 others, also from Sanskrit, were included. The third of them gives association with a master preeminence over all other methods. As Bhagavan said, if association with sages is obtained, to what purpose are the various methods of self-discipline? Tell me, of what use is a fan when the cool, gentle southern breeze is blowing? Association with Sri Bhagavan worked a subtle alchemy, even though its effects might only become visible years later. He sometimes told devotees explicitly of its value to them. To Ranga Iyer, the school friend referred to in Chapter 3, he once said, "If you stay with the Jnani, he gives you your cloth already woven." The implication being that by other methods you are given the thread and have to weave it yourself. Sundaresh Iyer became a devotee at the age of 12. When he got to be about 19, he grew dissatisfied with himself, feeling that more conscious and intense effort was needed. He was a householder, living in town, but had been visiting Sri Bhagavan almost daily. Now, however, he decided as an act of stern discipline not to go until he had developed such detachment and earnestness of purpose as to make him worthy of the association. For 100 days he stayed away, and then the thought came to him, "How am I better for not seeing Bhagavan?" And he went. Sri Bhagavan met him at the entrance to Skanda Ashram and greeted him with the question, "How are you better for not visiting me?" He then spoke to him of the importance and potency of satsang, even though the disciple did not perceive the effect it was having on him or see any improvement in himself. He compared it to a mother feeding her child during its sleep at night, so that next day the child thinks it took no food, although she knows it did, and in fact the food sustains it. This example implies more than an automatic benefit from living within the atmosphere of a sage. It implies conscious direction of the influence by him. On one occasion, Sri Bhagavan gave striking confirmation of this, though those who had experienced it needed none. Sundaresa Iyer composed a Tamil song in his praise, referring to the grace flowing forth from his eyes to sustain the devotees, and Sri Bhagavan corrected him. "No, not flowing, but projected, because it is a conscious process directing the grace to the one chosen." The disciple also has to make effort in order to utilize fully the grace of the Master, and for this the method that Sri Bhagavan constantly propounded was the vichara, the question, "Who am I?" This was the sadhana he brought to meet the needs of our age, and about this there was no secrecy or concealment. Bhagavan was quite categorical about the preeminence of vichara, saying, "Self-inquiry is the one infallible means, the only direct one, to realize the unconditioned absolute being that you really are. The attempt to destroy the ego or mind through sadhanas other than self-inquiry is like the thief turning policeman to catch the thief that is himself. Self-inquiry alone can reveal the truth that neither the ego nor mind really exists, and enables one to realize the pure, undifferentiated being of the self or absolute. And having realized the self, nothing remains to be known, because the self is perfect bliss. It is the all. The purpose of self-inquiry is to focus the entire mind at its source. It is not, therefore, a case of one eye searching for another eye. To focus the entire mind at its source, to turn it inward upon itself. The instruction was to sit in meditation asking, "Who am I?" and at the same time focusing the attention on the heart, not the physical organ on the left side of the chest, but the spiritual heart on the right. According to the nature of the questioner, Sri Bhagavan would lay stress first on the physical or the mental aspect, the concentration on the heart, or the question, "Who am I?" The spiritual heart on the right side of the chest is not one of the yogic chakras, the centers, traditionally taught. It is the center and source of the ego self and the abode of the Supreme Self, and is therefore the place of union. When asked whether there was any scriptural or other authority for locating the heart at this spot, Sri Bhagavan said that he had found that it is so, and had later seen it confirmed in one Malayalam book on Ayurveda. Those who have followed his injunctions have also found it so. This is so fundamental to the use of Uttara that it will be worthwhile reproducing here a conversation from Maharshi's Gospel, in which Sri Bhagavan explained it at some length. A devotee asked, "Sri Bhagavan has specified a particular place for the heart within the physical body that is in the chest, 2 digits to the right from the median." "Yes, that is the center of spiritual experience, according to the testimony of the sages. This spiritual heart center is quite different from the blood-propelling muscular organ known by the same name. The spiritual heart center is not an organ of the body. All that you can say of the heart is that it is the very core of your being, that with which you are really identical, whether you are awake, asleep, or dreaming, whether you are engaged in work or immersed in samadhi." In that case, how can it be localized in any part of the body? Fixing a place for the heart would imply setting physiological limitations to that which is beyond space and time. "That is true, but the person who puts the question about the position of the heart regards himself as existing with or in the body. Since, during the bodiless experience of the heart as pure consciousness, the sage is not at all aware of the body, that absolute experience is localized by him within the limits of the physical body by a sort of feeling recollection made while he is with bodily awareness." "Yes, but for men like me who have neither the direct experience of the heart you talk about, nor the consequent recollection, the matter seems to be somewhat difficult to grasp. About the position of the heart itself, perhaps, we must depend on some sort of guesswork." "If the determination of the position of the heart depended on guesswork, even for the ignorant, the question would be scarcely worth consideration. No, it is not on guesswork that you have to depend on an unerring intuition." "Who has this intuition?" "Everybody." "Does Sri Bhagavan credit me with an intuitive knowledge of the heart?" "No, not of the heart, but of the position of the heart in relation to your identity." "Did Sri Bhagavan say that I intuitively know the position of the heart in the physical body?" "Why not?" pointing to himself. Is it to me personally that Sri Bhagavan is referring? Yes, that is the intuition. How did you refer to yourself just now in gesture? Did you not point your finger to the right side of your chest? That is exactly the place of the heart center. So then, in the absence of direct knowledge of the heart center, I have to depend on this intuition? What is wrong with it? When a schoolboy says, "It is I that did the sum right," or when you ask, "Shall I run and get the book for you?" does he point to the head that did the sum right, or to the legs that will carry him quickly to get the book? No. In both cases, his finger is pointed quite naturally towards the right side of the chest, thus giving innocent expression to the profound truth that the source of I-ness in him is there. It is an unerring intuition that makes him refer to himself, to the heart that is the self, in that way. The act is quite involuntary and universal. That is to say that it is the same in the case of every individual. What stronger proof than this do you require about the position of the heart center in the physical body?